Hey, Jeff here, and so I'm. This video is going to fit into two different books. One's on the working the French, and one's whether we understand working Americans. And just because this came up from a LinkedIn post that someone put about childcare, and about a few people in the kind of my friends' contacts made comments about this, and I thought it was really appropriate to kind of do it here. I'm gonna do it now on the restaurant, so I don't forget. Um, but someone responded from a French point of view and European point of view of having got some noise here, but I have to talk louder than the people, right? Um, they talked from the French point of view that the French have, well, the whole thing was about childcare and and it being expensive and taking care of the kids and the birth rate going down and kind of all this because of plummeting because it's so expensive to have kids to just take care of children. Now, there's a whole thing behind this, and you have to look at this from several points of view. You can't look at this from just a single point of view. You got to look at it from multiple points of view. One is how much vacation and time off do you have? Okay, so that's a really important thing to consider. Second, I'm doing the French way, right? You got to do it the one. This is the American way. This is the French way with the thumb, right? So, point one. I'm speaking English, so I guess I'll do it the American way, right? um, so the first thing to understand is how much time you have and how much time is allotted to your work week and all that kind of stuff, and what is considered to be, um, how important work ethic is in life. Okay, that's a really important thing, and how the society considers family in this whole thing, because this is in the whole. So this is one point. The second is how the government yeah, I got to talk about governments, and this comes into both the French and American government systems are different in how they perceive this and how it's handled, right? So, how do the people themselves expect what the government is supposed to do about families, right? And is the government supposed to be involved in family stuff or not? And this comes down to do they subsidize childcare? Are they going to subsidize schooling, and how much? And all that. And yeah, it's about paying taxes, folks. So you got to pay taxes to do it. There's never a free lunch, right? Someone's got to pay for it at the end of the day. So for here, it's really important to understand at this point that in French culture, there's an expectation that the family is important. The government's supposed to help you do your family stuff, right? So you pay high taxes, so you get benefits, and that means you get subsidized schooling. You get the university is really cheap. You get subsidized childcare. You get all kinds of benefits and stuff. It's not just a tax, right? It's built into the system, and everything is around the family. And you pay taxes, and you're going to get a lot of benefits from it. And this is kind of quite so in socialized countries. Okay, yeah, I'm going to give a label to it. Um, and then you got other countries like America where this is all, well, you choose, right? You choose, and you got to pay for it. You got to pay for everything you do, and you got to choose how you're going to pay for it, and how you're going to write it off, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all kind of just it's you don't want the government to take care of anything, and everybody individual is supposed to take care of everything. Every single individual is supposed to take care of all their individual things, and they handle. It's kind of one person. Everybody does their own thing, right? It's kind of very individualist. It comes back to the individualism topic. Go read that, right? Watch that video on the individual topic. So so it's really important to understand how this plays into all these different character traits that I've been talking about in these cultures, right? And so this the French one, the community is important, the family is important. You pay taxes, and the government's going to do things to make sure that you can have children. You can have even when you have like over 3 kids, and you get you're what they call a big family, and you get discounts and stuff all over. But yet, I think it's three kids or more, right? So it's built in the system, and it's going to be this way. And everything is made for you to get discounts. Now, it is a very, what do we call it, an assisted culture. So there's a lot of assistance, a lot of kind of subsidizing. So it's an assisted culture. Americans don't like to be assisted. They want to make sure that they did themselves. They want to prove there was, I'm a man, what do you call it? Self-made man, did it all, right? That kind of thing, right? Sorry, I said self-made man. We say self-made person now, right? But it's this whole concept of, I did it all, right? I did it all. And I did that I grew up in that, and I did it for a long time, and I kind of had to adapt to the French one. But the whole thing of this childcare thing is it's the two perspectives of the two different countries of the United States and France are different. And the U.S. will never adopt it. I'm going to say that. The U.S. will never adopt it because they believe that all these are commodities. Okay. And yes, I'm going to say that they're commodities because I actually saw on Facebook post a number of years ago. I'm not going to say the name of the person that did it, but that's voiced it. But I said to myself, I was reading this thing about childcare and health, or education and health, the two topics, because in France are all subsidized. In the U.S., they're all expensive, right? They're just simply expensive. Yeah, I did my 2 degrees, first 3 degrees in America, and I paid for that really hard. I worked hard to pay for it, right? But the whole thing was, this whole discussion on Facebook was about, should education and healthcare be subsidized or not? And the whole discussion between it was really, there are Americans and there are Europeans, right? And at one point, I said to myself, people see this as commodities. The Americans see this as commodities. They're just whoever. And at one point during this whole discussion, one of my former colleagues, former employer, said, these are just commodities. He just outright said it. And I just said, this is what I need. This is exactly this is the exact point. So the reason why this subsidizing and all this care to have time off, a lot of time off for health care, for children, for adoption, for child, all maternity leave, all that stuff. Why does this not exist in the United States? Because the government is not set up to be able to do it, because people don't want it. People don't want to pay taxes. People do not want to pay taxes. They just want to pay the minimum, and then they want to write off everything, right? They don't want to have a healthcare. They want to have a system that takes care of you. They want a government that takes care of you. They want to be able to do it themselves and make their own decisions and do it and write it off, right? So that's why you're not going to get it across all of the United States. You will never get it because the people do not want it, because it's been since the Boston Tea Party that people do not want to pay the government to pay for tea, right? And for anything else. So that's kind of what it is. You got to accept it, folks. It will never come to the United States. You'll get individual companies doing it and helping you to do it, but you'll never get it across the U.S. because everybody's out for themselves, right? That's how it is. Now that COVID has changed a lot. I think there are some cultures. I'm not saying I'm making a generalization, but hey, we still see the arguments today. We still see the debates today. It hasn't changed. There are a lot of people that do want more of a, health care and all that stuff. And Obama tried it, right? But it didn't work. Didn't work. Why? Because of all this other stuff, right? And plus the pharmaceutical stuff, it's a business, right? It's a business. See, in France, this whole pharmacy thing isn't seen as a business thing. It's a necessity, right? And so the whole thing, is it a necessity or not? Is something the government should take care of it or not? Is it something that you make money off or not? Is it something that's just a cost? You get the cost of the healthcare system, or you have pharmaceutical companies like in the States that make money and they're going to build it. And so this whole thing is a really important thing to understand of how this functions and why you're going to have these things in one culture or another, or in some countries or not. And so the European countries are really into families. I mean, U.S. is too, but way different because you kick the kids out of the nest early, right? Way early. You're already getting rid of them when they're in childcare. I mean, we're all the little toddlers. You're already trying to get them out of the nest. It's the whole thing is getting them out of the nest immediately, as fast as possible. Where in the European cultures, you want to keep them in the nest for a long time, and they'll stick around for until 30 years old, right? They do well because the education's so cheap. You can do that, right? So there's no right or wrong here. There's nothing. I'm kind of staying as it, telling it like it, staying as it is, against my viewpoint, but been here a long time. Spent half my life in the United States and the other half in Europe, and kind of see this in different viewpoints. And I think they're all right and they're all wrong. It's just they all work and they don't always work, and then you can't always have what the others have, right? Because we're always jealous of what other countries have. But when you get what the other country has, you got to get all the other stuff with it. You got to take the whole package, right? So when you do it, you got to be a bunch of other things. So you can't just have, I want to have healthcare, I want to have this. Because you can do that, you can take the whole package with it, which can take a lot of stuff you don't want. So you got to kind of decide what you want. And yep, that's the kind of the thing for today on the childcare topic, and why I don't believe that it'll ever work in the United States. It's because it's a money-making business, folks. And Yeah, my wife she worked in childcare in the States, and she spent 4 years doing that. She had done it before in France. She went to, and it was, it was advanced level education in America. All money making, private childcare, private schools and all this stuff. Business, business, business. And so you expect there to be business and customers. Where in France, it's like, no, it's just it's an expectation. It's a human right. Actually, it's considered to be a human right. Um, in that way, and but not in America. So, so those are kind of the. Now think about it. You kind of figure it out yourself and think of what you want. But have a great day, everybody. And Jeff Allen out.